Hi, I'm Mike Stish. I'm with Hackaday.com, and I'm here at the Mauser booth at Electronica 2014 in Munich, and I'm with Grant Imahara. Hi, Grant. How are you?
I'm good.
So most people are familiar with your recent career, but I looked into some of your past, and I was happy to find that your first job out of college was really interesting. What did you do?
I was an electrical engineer. I worked at the THX division of Lucasfilm in consumer electronics. I would blow up loudspeakers, amplifiers, and surround sound controllers.
So did you have much experience with this when you were getting your degree, or was it mostly learning on the job?
Well, yeah, I, in my junior year, went and became Tom Holman's research assistant. And Tom Holman is the TH of THX.
Oh, wow, that's fantastic. So
I worked in the sound department at the cinema school, and Tom would give me papers to read. So I was familiar with that whole world.
And I understand you've done a lot of robotics builds as well.
Yes, both personal and professional. It's been, I think for me it's been a lifelong love affair with robots.
And what's your favorite part of robot building?
Bringing life to something that, it's really neat. You can create, you give the illusion of life to something that was inanimate before. A couple months ago, my agent came to me and said, look, Grant, we have an offer from an electronics distributor. I don't know if you heard of them. They're called Mauser. I'm like, of course I know Mauser. I've been a customer of Mauser's for over 20 years.
Right.
So when that partnership came out, I'm like, this is great. This is awesome. Because I'm an engineer, I speak the engineering language. And for this partnership, which is empowering innovation together, it's all about getting the tools into the hands of the design engineers. And my fan base is, now having been on TV for 10 years, it's young people who grew up watching the show who are now graduating as engineers. And so they're like, oh, I recognize Grant. I need parts. I need design tools and development boards. Oh, well, I'll order from Mauser. So it's a great partnership. It works good for both of us.
Well, I really like to hear that. I think there are far too few people that look at electronics and say, I want to know how that works.
Yes.
And really, it's just getting their foot in the door. It doesn't take that much to learn about it. And I'm wondering if you can share maybe some of your earliest experiences with playing around with electronics and maybe beginning to learn more about them.
Oh, yeah. I started out playing with Lego when I was very young, and I always say that Lego is like the entry drug to engineering because it's a system. There are rules, but it's also modular. So you can take those rules, you can solve problems by configuring things in different ways, which is essentially what engineering is. And from there I progressed to taking the wheels off my Hot Wheels, so they were just hot, and then taking things apart. And then I got an electronics experimenter's kit. And the very first thing is, let's sort resistors. The boringest thing I could possibly imagine. This is before the whole maker movement. Right? This is before all the resources that kids have today if you're interested in electronics. But by the way, it's an awesome time to be a kid who's interested in making things and electronics.
Absolutely.
But the very first thing was, let's sort of resistors. So, that's stupid. Let's go to lights. Lesson number 2 is, okay, well, we've got an LED. I'm like, awesome. I hadn't sorted the resistors, so I was like, I'll just plug it in. Blew out the LED, and that was it for the kit. And so I was interested in electronics, but I didn't do anything with it until much later. And then I picked up the Forrest Mims Radio Shack books, and those are awesome because it's very accessible. He tells you only what you need to know, and then from there you can take those blocks and reconfigure them and make things. And so that's really where I started becoming a hobbyist. I subscribed to all the this is, I'm old enough that was before the internet.
Yes.
And so to get information, you had to subscribe to all these magazines,
Right.
like Nuts and Bolts and Circuit Seller Inc. and things like that. And so that's how I got the information. And actually, that's how I found Mouser. I think it was by an ad in the back of Nuts and Bolts. Like, hey, you want parts? We have parts.
Do you have any idea what your first parts order was? Do you remember?
Probably it was passives. It was probably resistors.
Sure. And the excitement of when that box arrived and you're able to actually start building something?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's it's always like Christmas. You order something, and back in those days, I had to order call them up with a credit card, and you would have the catalog.
Right.
First you had to get the catalog.
Yep.
Then you would have to call them up. So, but it was great. It was really good, really great experience as a buyer, as a user. But
so if someone comes up to you and says, hey, I know you build a lot of robots, and I've flashed a few LEDs and I want to just try making something that moves, do you have any suggestions on where they should start?
Oh yeah. Kids these days, they have the internet. You could type into a search engine. You could type into YouTube, how do I make an LED light?
Right.
And someone will explain it to you in very simple terms. I mean, that's the power of living in the future, of having information.
Yeah.
Is anything that you can think of that you want to learn about, you can get those resources now. Back in my day, it was harder, but nowadays it's so much better. And so my advice is whatever you're interested in, whatever you want to do, if you want to make a motor move, these days you can buy an Arduino. It's all open source.
Right.
All the code is freely available online. You can get a motor shield. You can buy a motor. You can buy it all Mouser. They'll send it to you in a box. You download your code from the internet and you've got a moving motor. It's that great.
It's a brave new world.
It's an awesome new world.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today. It's great to hear your story, and we're so happy to hear you promoting people getting into electronics, people sharing their thoughts and ideas, maybe through open source or even just trying it out. And we look for great things from you with Mouser's innovation program.
All right. Well, thanks a lot.
Thank you.